I didn't find out he was cheating because of some strange perfume or a suspicious text. It was way more ordinary than that. I just noticed he'd stopped looking at me. My name is Emily Hart, 34 years old, freelance illustrator. I live in an apartment overlooking Lake Union in Seattle. I've got a cat named Marlowe, way too many houseplants, and a man I thought I knew inside and out. Matt. He was the kind of guy you think only exists in movies, confident, funny, with hands that knew exactly how to hold and comfort you. We met at a coffee shop, Elm Street Brew, when he spilled his latte on me, apologized for half an hour, and offered to buy me a donut to make up for it. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was the first time in ages someone looked at me like I was the beginning of something. We started dating almost immediately. Matt worked in IT, managing a QA team at some startup. He was busy, sure, but he always found time for me. On weekends, we'd visit his sister in Bellevue, binge movies, cook dinner together. He knew I loved blue cheese and hated when people left socks on the bed. Those little things, you think they mean something. You think they mean everything. But love doesn't die all at once. It fades like sugar dissolving in tea. First, it just tastes a little different. Then you realize the sweetness is completely gone. The first red flag was when he started coming home later than usual. Had to stay for a meeting. Client called for a late sync. The kinds of excuses I'd used myself back when I didn't want to tell the truth. But I stayed quiet. Because trust is the foundation of any relationship, right? Then he started forgetting things. Plans we made. My birthday. The groceries I asked him to pick up. But the worst part? He forgot me. I'd catch him staring past me like I was just part of the furniture. He didn't ask about my day anymore. Or if he did, he didn't care to hear the answer. One night, I woke up and found him sitting on the balcony with his laptop. The glow from the screen lit up his face. He was typing fast, tense. I asked if he couldn't sleep. He jumped like he didn't expect me to speak. Said it was just work. Then he closed his laptop and went to bed without kissing me. I started noticing little things. He was shaving more often, wearing new shirts, a different cologne. One day, I found a hair tie in his car, clearly not mine. Probably my sister's, he said without blinking, and I believed him. Or maybe I wanted to believe him. The worst part wasn't the suspicion. It was the silence between us. We barely spoke, rarely touched. Even the sex, which was already rare, almost scheduled, felt like going through the motions. Like we were pretending to be in love, forgetting what love even felt like. Still, I held on. Because there's always that voice in your head saying maybe it's just a phase. Maybe it's work. Maybe he's tired. And then I saw her. Not in person. On his screen. He'd forgotten to log out of his Instagram. I wasn't snooping, at least I told myself I wasn't. But when you've been feeling betrayed for months, even the smallest clue feels like oxygen. A photo. A woman in a blue dress. Caption. Perfect night with you, blue heart. And he commented, always babe. Always babe. He never called me babe. Not once. I stared at the screen, frozen. The comment had been posted just the night before. While I was lying in bed alone, wondering why he hadn't even kissed me goodnight. He was telling another woman she was his always. My hands were shaking. Not from anger, at least not yet. It was something colder than that. A kind of slow creeping numbness, like stepping into ice water. I knew I should have confronted him right then. Marched into the bedroom, slapped the laptop on the bed and said, explain this. But instead I just closed the screen. I sat on the couch in the dark, until the sun started to rise over the lake. You always think you'll know what to do in a moment like that. That you'll yell, cry, throw things, demand answers. But the truth is, infidelity doesn't always come with a dramatic soundtrack. Sometimes it arrives quietly, like a shadow across your chest. The next morning I acted like nothing had happened. I made coffee, fed Marlowe, sat at the kitchen island scrolling through emails while Matt stumbled out of the bedroom, rubbing his eyes. Hey, he said, stretching. You're up early. I looked up, smiled. Couldn't sleep. He came over and kissed my forehead. Felt wrong. So wrong. Like someone else wearing his face. Long day ahead? I asked, pretending to sip from my mug. My voice didn't even crack. Yeah, 2 back-to-back calls and then a product review meeting. Ugh. I nodded. You staying late again? Probably. I'll text you if I do. I watched him pack his laptop, saw the same machine that had shown me that woman in the blue dress. Okay. Be safe. Always, he said, grabbing his keys. Always. That word hit different now. Once he left, I opened his laptop again. This time I didn't stop myself. I dug. Messages. Photos. DMs. They'd been talking for months. Her name was Zoe. She lived in Portland. She was, ironically, a UX designer. Young, pretty clever. She called him my tech genius. He called her Zoe. There were long threads of flirty exchanges, plans to meet again. Even a saved Airbnb link titled, Our Weekend Getaway. I scrolled until I couldn't anymore. Until I was drowning in their emojis, their secret jokes, their intimacy. The kind that used to be mine. And then I saw something that made my stomach twist. A message from just last week. Zoe. Did you tell her yet? Matt. Not yet. I just need the right moment. Tell me what, exactly? That he was leaving me? That she wasn't a fling but a replacement? That everything we built was just a placeholder for something shinier? The betrayal wasn't just in the cheating. It was in the cowardice. He wasn't man enough to end things before starting something new. No. He wanted to keep me. Until he was sure she'd catch him when he jumped. That night I couldn't look him in the eyes. I made up a headache and went to bed early. He didn't follow. Just stayed in the living room, chuckling softly at some YouTube video while texting her, no doubt. Over the next few days I became two versions of myself. There was the Emily he knew, soft, quiet, passive, smiling through dinners, nodding at his stories, pretending I was fine. And then there was the real me, angry, boiling, calculating, watching him, recording dates, saving screenshots, planning. I started calling my best friend Liv, who lived in Chicago. She was the only one I trusted to not say, I told you so. I hadn't told her much about how things had been crumbling lately, but she didn't seem surprised. Do you want to leave him? She asked straight up. I hesitated. I want to destroy him first. That wasn't like me. I wasn't vengeful by nature. But there was something about how easy it was for him to live a double life, how effortlessly he lied to my face, that made me want to scorch the earth he walked on. Liv offered to fly out. I said no. I wasn't ready for anyone else to be near the wreckage just yet. Instead, I started creating space. Mentally, emotionally. I went to a co-working space instead of working from home. Took walks without telling him. Booked a weekend trip to visit my sister in San Diego alone. I needed perspective. I needed air. But most of all, I needed proof. Not for court. Not for drama. For me. I needed to see the truth in motion. Needed to shatter whatever last pieces of delusion still clung to my ribs. So I followed him. It was a Thursday night. He said he had a late work dinner with investors. I knew from his messages that he was meeting Zoe at a hotel near Pike Place. I got there early. Sat in the lobby bar. Ordered a ginger ale I didn't drink. And then I saw them. Walking in like a couple on vacation. Her hand was on his chest. His arm around her waist. They looked comfortable, familiar, like this wasn't their first time. She laughed at something he said. He kissed her cheek. I didn't cry. I took a photo, and then I left. That night I didn't sleep. I lay on the couch, listening to the silence, replaying every detail of the past 2 years with him, every moment that now felt like a lie. He came home just after midnight. I pretended to be asleep. He showered, slid into bed. I could feel the hotel soap on his skin from across the room. And still, I didn't confront him. Not yet. Because the truth is, I wasn't done writing my story. I wasn't going to let him be the author of my ending. So I waited, planned, and prepared for the moment I'd finally take back control. Matt was in the kitchen making coffee the next morning, humming to himself like nothing was wrong. Like he hadn't spent the night wrapped around another woman, telling her lies and feeding me silence. I stood in the doorway watching him, thinking about how many versions of him existed. There was the man in front of me now, barefoot, sleepy-eyed, acting like he loved me. Then there was the man from the hotel lobby, laughing with Zoe, pressing his lips to her skin like she was home. I'm thinking about making French toast, he said, still facing the stove. Wanna help? I walked over, slid my phone onto the counter in front of him. The screen lit up with the photo I'd taken the night before. The hotel. Him. Her. His whole body froze. He stared at the screen like it was in another language. Then slowly, so slowly, he looked up at me. Emily. I said nothing. What is this? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. Don't insult me, Matt. You know exactly what it is. Silence. I could hear the toaster ticking behind us. I can explain, he said finally. You can try. But I won't believe you. He reached for the phone. Pulled it back. No more lies. No more stories about investors or late meetings or your damn sister's hair tie. I know, Matt. His face collapsed. Like everything that held him together just gave up. How long? I asked. How long have you been seeing her? He swallowed. Hard. A few months. Define a few. Since November. I felt like I'd been punched. November. We'd spent Thanksgiving with his family. He held my hand at dinner. Told his mom he was the luckiest guy in the world. And all that time he was already with her. I stared at him, searching for something. Shame, regret, anything. But all I saw was fear. Not of losing me. Of being caught. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he said. I laughed. A cold, bitter laugh I didn't recognize as mine. You think that makes it better? No, he stepped closer. I was confused. Things with us, we were drifting. You seemed distant, like you didn't even care anymore. I held up a hand. Don't you dare blame this on me. He stopped. You were the one who changed. Who shut me out. Who started looking through me instead of at me. He looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. Maybe because he knew I was right. Maybe because he realized it didn't matter anymore. Are you in love with her? I asked quietly. He hesitated. I don't know. And there it was. Not a denial. Not even a lie to soften the blow. Just uncertainty, which somehow hurt even more. Because if he'd said yes, I could have hated him. If he'd said no, I might have believed we could fix it. But I don't know. That meant he was still in two worlds. Still trying to keep both doors open. Well, I said, you're not going to have to choose anymore. I turned and walked toward the bedroom. What are you doing? He asked, following me. Packing. His voice cracked. You're leaving. I stopped, spun around. You left, Matt. You just forgot to take your suitcase. He didn't try to stop me. Didn't cry. Didn't beg. And that told me everything I needed to know. I stayed with my sister in San Diego for 2 weeks. Spent the first 3 days in her guest room. Curled up like a kid, letting it all sink in. The betrayal. The loss. The fact that the life I thought I had was just smoke. But something strange happened on the 4th day. I woke up. The sun was pouring through the window. My sister had made coffee and set out a fresh bagel. Marlo was purring in my lap. And there was an email from a client asking me to illustrate the cover for a new YA novel. And I realized I was okay. Not healed. Not whole. But breathing. Matt wasn't the only thing holding my life together. I was. And now that he was gone, I had space, real terrifying, beautiful space, to figure out who I was without him. I started painting again. Not for clients. Just for me. Angry brushstrokes. Messy colors. Real emotion. I hadn't done that in years. I talked to Liv every night. She sent me memes and voice notes and playlists called things like Dump Him Anthems Volume 2. I cried. A lot. But I also laughed. And little by little, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time. Free. One afternoon I got a text from Matt. I miss you. I made a mistake. I stared at it for a long time. My chest tightened just a little. But I didn't reply. Instead, I blocked his number. Deleted the thread. Because I didn't need closure. I was the closure. A week later I flew back to Seattle. My apartment felt empty without him. But it also felt clean. Quiet. Honest. I rearranged the furniture. Took down the photos. Burned the sheets we used to share. Yes, actually burned them in a friend's backyard, drinking wine and laughing like a madwoman. I went back to work. Slowly reconnected with old friends. Even joined a pottery class downtown, something I'd always said I'd do someday. And one night, after class, a guy named Daniel asked if I wanted to grab coffee. He wasn't Matt. And that was the best part. He asked real questions. Listened to the answers. When I told him I'd just come out of something messy, he didn't flinch. just nodded and said, "Sometimes breaking apart is how we find the good stuff." I didn't fall in love that night. But for the first time in a long time I wanted to. And so here I am. Not broken. Not bitter. Just me. Standing in my own story. And writing the next chapter on my own damn terms. It's been 6 months. 6 months since the lie shattered. 6 months since I stood in my kitchen, holding up the truth like a match to gasoline. 6 months since I left Matt behind, along with every version of myself that needed his approval to feel like enough. And now? Now I live in a little studio apartment in Capitol Hill. Exposed brick, creaky floors, and sunlight that floods in like it's trying to apologize for all the darkness. It's not much, but it's mine. Every inch of it. I got a new couch. A new coffee maker. A new start. Marlo seems to like it here. She spends her afternoons stretched out on the windowsill, watching the world go by like she's judging it. Or maybe she's just content like me. The funny thing about heartbreak is that it doesn't leave you broken. It leaves you open. Raw, yes. Vulnerable, absolutely. But also wide open to the parts of yourself you forgot about while trying to fit inside someone else's expectations. I go to pottery class every Wednesday. My hands are constantly covered in clay now. There's something oddly healing about shaping something with your bare fingers, pressing in, pulling up, smoothing out the cracks. Maybe that's why I love it so much. And Daniel? Yeah, he's still around. He never tried to fix me. Never rushed me. Never asked me to be anything other than exactly who I was, even when that person was messy, unsure, or quiet for long stretches of time. We're taking things slow. Deliberately slow. Not because I'm scared, but because I've finally learned the value of pace. Of checking in with myself before I hand over my heart. He knows about Matt. Knows the whole story. I told him one night over Thai food, sitting in the front seat of his car as the rain tapped gently on the roof. I expected him to flinch, maybe even pull back. He didn't. He just reached for my hand and said, "Thank you for trusting me with that." That's when I knew I was safe. Not just with him. With me. Matt tried to reach out again. Through a friend. Then through email. He wanted to talk. He said he was sorry. That he missed me. That Zoe wasn't what he thought she was. I read the message once. Then deleted it. No dramatic replies. No closure dinner. No need to prove anything. He lost me the moment he made me doubt myself. That kind of betrayal doesn't get a second chance. I sometimes wonder if he regrets it. If he thinks about what he gave up. But honestly, I don't care. Because for the first time in years, I'm not living in someone else's shadow. I'm not shrinking myself to fit into a man's life like a carry-on bag. I'm building something for me. A month ago, I opened my first gallery show. A small one, just a weekend pop-up downtown with some other local artists. But still, my art was there. My name on the wall. People stopped. Looked. Felt something. One of the paintings, one I nearly didn't hang, was a messy swirl of deep red and stormy gray. I called it November. Nobody knew what it meant but me. A woman in her 50s stood in front of it for a long time. Then she turned to me and said, "This one hurts, but in the right way." I smiled. Yeah, it does. And in that moment I realized the pain wasn't pointless. It meant something. It had turned into art. Into connection. Into power. The other night, Daniel and I sat on the roof of his apartment, wrapped in a blanket, watching the skyline flicker like fireflies. He looked over at me and said, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if he hadn't cheated?" I didn't even hesitate. No, I said. Because I wouldn't want that life back. And I meant it. I don't want the version of myself who was always afraid to ask for more. Who mistook crumbs for feasts. Who thought silence was something you could fix if you just loved hard enough. I want this version. The one who survived. Who rebuilt. Who thrived. And if that meant walking through fire to get here, then I'd do it again. Every damn time. So if you're listening to this and you're in that place I was curled up on the couch, wondering what you did wrong, let me tell you something. You didn't. You didn't mess up. You didn't drive them away. You didn't fail. They chose to lie. To betray. To leave without leaving. That's on them. But what happens next? That's on you. You get to decide who you become when the pieces hit the floor. You get to paint again. To dance. To scream. To build a new life out of the ashes they left behind. You get to rise. And if you're anything like me, one day you'll look back and realize. The end wasn't a punishment. It was a beginning. The best damn one you never saw coming. And that right there is the real plot twist.